There we go. I was tripping. All right. Where did I just place that? Did I have it with me? No. All right. All right. I'm gonna go over ethnicity and race. I hear quite often people talking about original peoples and saying that some people are not original peoples, just stuff like that, right? And so I would like to go over the SF-181 ethnicity and race form, right? And we're going to start with American Indian, Alaska Native. Okay. And then we have Asian. Then we have Black or, okay, slash there. Black or African American. We have Native, Hawaiian, or other Pacific Islander. And then we have white. Okay. So these are the race classifications. And this is what original peoples, let me say this is how original peoples are categorized and defined according to federal constitutional enforcement. Okay? Before I go into this in detail, let me roll up. Right? And while I'm doing so, let's talk about original peoples, right? Again, there's this flow of talk about original peoples. These people are the original peoples. These people are not the original. What does it mean, original peoples, right? What does that mean? You know, original peoples. And in this context, do we see that there are original peoples everywhere? Like, this is not a concept. Let me not even beat around the bush, right? This is not a concept that's just exclusive to Americans, right? We're the American Aborigines and the Origines all across the planet. We're the Origines and nobody else are Origines, right? I mean, I've heard that stuff. I even still hear that. What does it mean to be an original people, right? Who are the original peoples? Well, again, I'm going a little too fast while I'm trying to do what I do, but somebody tell me, right? What does it mean? What does it mean to be? Who are not original peoples? There's a question, right? That's an answer. That's one of the questions that I'm going to answer this moment with you all during this feed, right? I'm definitely going to answer who are not original peoples. Okay? And then hopefully that will stick with yourself and you'll understand what's going on here. And if not, hey, maybe next time. All right? I hope you all are comfortable, receptive. All right? Appreciate you all for coming. Absolutely. All right. So the SF-181 form. If y'all are not familiar with my content, I will have you know that the information, the documents that I use, are not self-made documents. They are not secret documents. I use government documents because I'm for government. I'm not necessarily for self. I'm for all. So I use government documents when I go as source reference, right? Because the thing is, when people are talking about what is and what is not, I hear a lot of people say government this, government that. And I also recognize that they're not using government definitions. How are you going to tell me about the government and then you're not using the same information of said government? All right. That's together. Let's get okay, the paperwork's up there too, so let's get to it. Original peoples. Original peoples just means that there is an inhabitation of people, right, on a particular continent. All right, the original peoples of Asia. But let me not get ahead of myself. Right, so we have American Indian. Who are the original peoples of the Americas? Is it the Moors? No, it is not. It is not. Okay. According to the ethnicity and race identification form, an American Indian or an Alaska Native is a person having origins in any of the original peoples of North, South, and Central America, and who maintains tribal affiliation or community attachment. Those are your original North American peoples. Okay? That was very easy. Right? Original peoples. Peoples who belong. Their history is here. Wherever the case may be, right? Whether they've gone to other lands or not, right? The original peoples of America, of North America, are Alaska Natives and American Indians. Whether they are dark skinned or pale, ruddy skin, that's a whole other topic. All right? Okay. Now we have Asians. Asian is the next class. A person having origins in any of the original peoples. So we have this original peoples again. Because I would like to, again, bring to your attention that there are people out here using this term, original peoples, and saying that they themselves are the only original peoples everywhere. And the only way that can be true is if they consider themselves not as an independent people, but as human, but as a unified people of humanity. Can't be one race and then another race, but nonetheless, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of the Far East, Southeast Asia, or the Indian subcontinent, including, for example, Cambodia, China, India, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Pakistan. So Pakistanis, they are not, they are Asian. Okay? And if you really know what Pakistani, these are two groups, these are several groups of people wrapped in one. But nonetheless, the Philippine Islands, Thailand, Vietnam. These are just some of the examples. So Indians are Asians. Okay? The Indian people, the Hindu people, the Nepali people, right? These people are considered as Asians. Are they yellow, by the way? I don't think so. I follow, I'm an omnist. So I find myself studying all religions and philosophies and whatnot. And there is an individual who has the title Satguru, right? And this is a person born in India, right? And his skin tone is darker than mine, right? And he's got the nice long beard, right? But he's not African, right? Dark skin does not inherently mean Africa is your land of origin. All right. Then we have Black or African American, a person having origins in any of the Black racial groups of Africa. Okay. Did anyone catch that? Did you catch what was not mentioned in the classification uh, of Black or African American? Who is that? Let me see, because I appreciate you for coming. I'm just supposed to say who is it. Let me see here. Brother Joseph Mobley. All right, Islam. All right. So there is no mention under the race classification of Black or African American. There is no mention of the term original peoples. There is absolutely no mention of original peoples of any land, of any nation of origin mentioned on the SF-181. Next, we have Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander. So these are the people who are off the coast of Southern California, right? Down in those regions and in those islands, right? A person having origins in any of the original peoples of Hawaii, Guam, Samoa, or other Pacific islands, right? Like Polynesia, the Maori, stuff like that. These are the original peoples of those islands. Now, I've seen dark-skinned Samoans, right? Not necessarily the skin tone of the Samoans that we may see in the public. Prime example, Dwayne Johnson's father, The Rock. His father is a darker skinned Samoan, right? Just for emphasis, do I make mention of that, right? Next, we have white. And white says a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. So the white race consists of Europeans and the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East and the original peoples of the Middle East, and North Africa and the original peoples of North Africa. So the white race, if you will, came to America. They came, all three of these continents and their peoples came to America and established what we know of today as the United States of America by 1774, right? Black. Black has no original peoples. Or let me use the appropriate mathematical equations. Black and African American does not equal original peoples. That is not a race that is recognized as having any history. All right. So black and African, if you are a black American Indian, then you're not an original American Indian. Okay? If you are a black Pacific Islander, then you are not a Pacific Islander. Oh man, that's on me. Oh. Okay? Now this is according to the race classification here in America. There is no such thing in the human race as a black anything. And so let me go back. Let me go back to this white, right? White people of Europe, right? The Sicilians. The Sicilians are white, aren't they? If we know history, and I know a little something about history, right? I know that the Sicilians were the Italians who intermixed with the North Africans, as well as the Arabs. These are the Sicilians. They're Italian. When we see them, when we see most mainstream Sicilians, what differentiates them from their other Italian people is that the Sicilians they're prone to have darker skin and darker hair, darker pigment period. They have a little more melanin than the rest. They may have brown eyes. Again, they may be brunettes or morenos, right? Brunettes, whatnot, having that brown hair. These are white people. And the Sicilians have European and North African ancestry. So at what point do the Sicilians, because the Sicilians, they're Italians. At what point do the Sicilians not be called black? If black means dark skin or black means African. At no point in time do they say that they're Africans. They're Europeans, right? They're classified as white. So someone like myself, who's of North African descent, that may have a darker skin tone, right? I still share that same white status as a Sicilian who may have a paler hue, right? We share the white race. Well, who else do the Europeans and the North Africans share their race with? Middle Easterners. So on the map, right, North Africa, Europe, and the Middle East is really just Africa and Eurasia. That portion that we call Eurasia, where Europe and Asia connects. Syria, right, right above, literally right above the North African tip, right, across the water. You have Portugal, Spain, you have Turkey, you have all of these European lands that have intermingled with North Africans and Arabs. So again, this is why they share the white race collective, right? All of this talk about who is and who's not original peoples, right? Who is I'm part of the pure white race. As crazy as that sounds to some, all right? I identify with the white race. Not because my skin is pale, not because I come from Europe. Hell, I don't come from Africa. My ancestors came from Africa here, right? But just because I have a darker hue, right, that does not put me outside of the white status. And I know this for a fact because again, the SF-181, it's telling you if you can comprehend, black has no lawful status. It just doesn't. At least not here in America. So for those people who are living the life thinking that because someone's skin is dark that they are black, right? They are legally incompetent, whatever their background may be. But let me not get too far off topic, right? American Indians and Alaskan Natives. We know that these people, and this is not common. This is not consensus agreed, right? But nonetheless, right? Those who are identified as American Indians and even the Alaska Natives, they came from Eurasia. So they would literally be classified here, but they choose to identify as other than, and that's perfectly fine, right? They're Asian. They're Asians not born in Asia. All right, but these are the so-called American Indians and the Alaska Natives. As a matter of fact, the only time you hear the word native when dealing with race is when it's dealing with, God damn it, is when it's dealing with Alaskans. Period. According to America, the United States, the only true native classification is that of an Alaskan native. American Indians are not called Native Americans, according to this race and ethnicity identification. There is no Native American. You got people saying we're all natives. Everyone's born in America. Everyone that's born in America is native to America. So are we all Native American? And again, that's not a designation. Oh, excuse me. Native Hawaiian. So we have Native Hawaiian as well. So we have Native Alaska Natives and Native Hawaiians. Mind you, both original peoples, the Alaska Natives and the Native Hawaiians, they're all on the west side, the west coast of America. They're all in the Western Hemisphere. Alaska is above California, and the Polynesian islands or whatnot are below California. So anyone who's native they're West Coast immediate, right? Some of us learn that the American Indians were marched from east to west, right? And so that's why they're out there in the Great Plains in the west, whatever, Oklahoma and all of that. Whatever the case may be. Anyone who's a native is West Coast, right? It's West Coast. Black. Black does not have an original peoples. So again, let's get back to that, right? Original peoples have land, language, culture, continuity, constitution, covenant, right? Governments. There's not a black government anywhere on the planet. Nowhere. There's not a black president, nor has there ever been a black president. All right? There's not a black flag. There's not a black country. There's not a black continent. Black does not exist as an original peoples in law. It's a status. It's a classification. It is literally the designation for corporate, for artificial, there you go, for artificial persons. Black is an artificial person, period. It does not live. It has no life, no liberty. It cannot enjoy. It cannot be happy. This is the classification. Why can it not do these things or experience these things? Because it does not have an original nature. Or excuse me, its nature is not that of the living. Now, this man right here was teaching people. Oh, pardon yourself. Way back in the 1900s. What I just told you. This man was teaching that stuff all of this here. This is all throughout his literature. This man knew about this. Now, mind you, this came out in 1997. All right, but he knew about these principles enough that I can assure you, these principles, right? They are all in his information, and his goal was not to get out of government, but to go into government. He felt like, hey, you know what? With the right status, even you could be mayor. He was a North African descendant. Now, according to the SF-181 ethnicity and race identification form, North African is a white status. All right, and Drew Ali, this brother here, who was teaching about these North Africans, who got, that's what I wanted to say too, who got permission from the pharaohs of Egypt, right? Not that they themselves were Egyptians, but the Egyptians were family, and I guess of the priesthood line, right? They got permission from the priesthood line to go east and west of Egypt and to share certain informations. And the North Africans are the ones who came over here to this side of the Americas first. So if he's saying that we're North African, he's not saying that the Moorish Americans are the original peoples of the Americas. That's not what he's saying. Okay. He's saying that the Moors came over here and civilized the people who were already here. But he specifically let it be known that they are not black, Negro, or colored, or Ethiopian, right? So if they're not black, Negro, or colored, and at that time we didn't have this term African American, but that's what it comes to today, right? So if you're not black, Negro, or colored, and you're a North African, and also with his religious literature, he teaches that man cannot be black because man is made in the image and after the likeness of God, right? And then we learn about God and that God, white means purity and purity means God. And so again, if man is made in the image and after the likeness of God, and God is white, and man can't be black, again, this man had this idea that dark-skinned people could be identified as white and equal to all other people. He was not over here talking about, yeah, we're from the Cherokee. As a matter of fact, you know what? Yeah. So I've heard people say, it's just really dawned on me too. I hear a lot of people out here saying, in regards to him, right, that he was born of an Indian tribe. You'll hear people say he was born in the Cherokee, whatever, right? None of this, by the way, that he's wearing is American Indian. Right? Drew Ali was identified as an East Indian back in the early 1900s in the newspaper. East Indians, okay? Drew Ali was identified as an East Indian, not as an American Indian. And Noble Drew Ali was adopted into the family that he was in. So he wasn't born from that. Somebody who was in that family, right? He was not bloodline kin to. So if Drew Ali was identified as an East Indian, and again, if you're familiar with real world history, you'll find that East India was called Ethiopia, right? Then it should, if you're familiar with the literature at least, you will understand why he also says that you're not Ethiopian. You're not black, Negro, colored. You're not blacks, Negroes, colorful, or Ethiopians. So he's telling you that the East Indians who were called Ethiopians were not Ethiopians. And they were called Ethiopians because the majority of them were darker skinned. Drew Ali was not an American Indian, Cherokee, Andean, Wea, mound builder, dome, whatever. He was not none of that. That's not what he was. So when they say he was an Indian, right, I would imagine that it's relating back to this. He was identified as an East Indian whose birthplace is Norfolk, Virginia. Not Carolina, North Carolina. Right? Noble Drew Ali never taught that Moorish Americans were American Indians. The Moorish Americans are descendants of Moroccans. So the original peoples, right, are from North Africa, along with their Egyptian, along with all of the other North African areas, right, as their brothers and sisters, right? They have the white status. They don't have any American Indian ideology whatsoever. Drew Ali has a feather in his head, in his cap. Have you ever seen Hindus or East Indian people, right? And they wear all types of turban and all types of stuff on the turban, and they wear feather. He's showing you that this is supposed to be Moroccan attire, mind you. All right, he's showing you Moroccan attire, right? And he looks like a Hindu. Okay. Again, if you really knew culture and you can identify culture in what you see, you'll realize that. I thought somebody said something important. So you'll realize that Noble Drew Ali never identified as an American Indian. That's not American Indian wardrobe. Though those who are depicted as American Indians, they also don't they wear feather in their head? So we have African people who wear feathers. We have Asian people who wear feathers. We have European people who wear feathers, and we have American people who wear feathers in their head. This is not an American Indian thing alone, is what I'm saying. When you see people with feathers, I've seen people. As a matter of fact, I'll use myself as an example. I was out here walking around with feather crowns and caps and whatnot, thinking that America is Morocco, right? Thinking that I was a Moorish Indian. I was a part of that movement at some point. Let me do this for you, right? Let me explain to you, allow me to explain what I've come to recognize. We'll put it that way. What the word Moor pertains to, or even better yet, I'm going to point out the various uses of the term Moor. First and foremost, Moor does not mean black. Moor does not mean black. That is not what Moor means. Okay? Because black does not mean dark skin. Secondly, Moor does not originally or initially mean dark skinned people. The term Moor began to mean dark skinned people at a time when certain Latin people desired no longer to be under the Islamic banner, and they chose Christianity, and they chose to separate themselves from what already was, and they started preaching that pale skin is more Christian-like, and Islam is more dark skin-like, and thus we get this contemporary connection where we find out that when people say more, they're insinuating that it means darker skinned people. But more definitely means Muslim. A Moor is a North African. All of North Africa is Islamic. All of North Africa deals with Islam. Okay? There is not one country on the continent of Africa in the northern hemisphere, right, that has anything other than Islam as its religion. All right. Moor means Muslim. All right. So Moorish American, right, means a Muslim American of North African, particularly Moroccan ancestry or heritage, lineage. All right. Um, what else? Moorish. Let's go to Moorish, right? Moor in and of itself is not an English word. And so ish is not an English word either. All right. I found the term Moor other than it pertaining to Moroccans, right? Moor also has this expression of love. Okay. In Latin, it is amor. All right. So if more means love, right? In Latin language, of course, Moroccan Arabic and Spanish, right? They are interconnected. Absolutely. So if more means love, what language is Ish? Ish is also a North African part itself. Uh, this is Asian. All right, particularly in Sanskrit, Ish means man, and Isha means woman. So more Ish, right, is love as man, or man as love, love divine, right? Now, again, over time, the word Moorish came to be known as both Islamic and dark skin, interchangeably, right? Here's an example. How many of you all are familiar with Saint Benedict? Saint Benedict the what? They hid him in history, right? I've seen various descriptions, right? Saint Benedict is known as the Ethiopian. He's known as the African to some, but he's known specifically as the Moor. Now, mind you, he was a Christian. So this treats to the idea that Moor doesn't necessarily mean Muslim, or excuse me, in this context, the word Moor meant dark skin. Let me put it that way. He was Saint Benedict the Moor, right? Or the Saint Benedict the African, Saint Benedict the Ethiopian, right? Now, here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the area called the Hill District, right, which is the most prominent Islamic area center here in the Pittsburgh area, there is a church called Saint Benedict the Moor, right? And there's a school as well. I actually attended that school when I was younger, not knowing any better, right? On top of this school, you have Saint Benedict with his hands outstretched like Michael Jordan holding a basketball, and he's at all bronze, right? But you see his curly hair. You see his what they would like to you. You are so lost. Am I Shake? Am I lost? This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. All right, well, whatever. Anyway, you see his curly hair. You see his so-called Negroid features. Saint Benedict the Moor. That's something that you do your own research. Go check it out. Make sure that I'm not like this guy is saying, just speaking stuff that I don't know about, right? The term Moor, again, does not inherently mean dark-skinned person. It does. Okay? But again, contemporarily, the term Moor to differentiate from those Europeans who desired Christianity, the term Moor became affiliated with darker skinned peoples. So anywhere, and as a matter of fact, get a dictionary and look up the word Moor, and it'll say any dark skinned person. These are English dictionaries. An English dictionary will tell you, if you look up the word Moor, it'll say any dark skinned person. So if I'm making this up, it won't be there. How about that? Right? The word Moor in English has been come to known as a dark skinned person. So when this brother here came to the Moorish Americans, he was pertaining to the dark skinned people of America, of North African descent, and of every other descent in America. There are dark skinned peoples. Every nation has its dark skin and paler skin, and every variation in between complexion of people. There's not a people on this planet, there's not a country on this planet where there are not original peoples, both of darker skin and of any other variation of skin complexion. Okay? All right. Everybody has dark skin. Again, like I was making mention of a moment ago with the Hindus, or that might have been a whole different video. You see dark skinned Hindus, you see light skinned Hindus, you see dark skinned Mexicans, right? The people have this concept that dark skin means African. And so they'll say, yeah, they're Afro Mexican or they're Afro Latino. That's not a thing. All right. And if it is a thing, what about the Afro Asiatics? Right? If Afro just means dark skin, that means that there are dark skinned peoples in every nation, not that they are from Africa. Again, prime example, Muammar Gaddafi. Muammar Gaddafi, right? His skin was very pale. He was a Libyan. That's North Africa. Okay? He's African through and through, right? He was a Libyan through and through, right? But he was a pale skinned brother. Was he less Muslim because he was pale skinned? Was he less African? Was he Euro African because he had pale skin? No. No, he wasn't. All right. The concept of original peoples just means that there are people that come from. You can trace your line back to a particular land. All right. The American Indians, in their custom, whether they've forgotten and lost it, whatever the case may be, they cannot trace themselves outside of America. That's all they know. That's all they know. All right. Moorish Americans, Italian Americans, Chinese Americans, whatever the case may be, they can trace themselves somewhere else and say, hey, I know that my family is from over there, but I was born here. I wasn't born over there. An Italian American has Italian ancestry, but has American allegiance, birthright. Okay? Drew Ali did not call his people Moroccan Americans. All right? He understood that our ancestry was Moroccan, right? But that we here in America are not Moroccan born. So a Moroccan American, right, is someone today who was born, who's from Morocco, right? In this present time, their ancestors, uh, their mother and father may have come to America, had them. Now they're Moroccan American. Moorish American pertains to those North Africans who came prior to colonialism, prior to modern history, right? They came with the Mali. We know the. I don't know if y'all know, but the Malian Empire came over here. Abu Bakr, what's the Mansa Musa, right? Or was it Abu Bakr? Regardless, there were all kinds of people coming over here from North Africa, from North and South Africa, right? And they settled themselves over here. There's evidence of mosques. There's evidence of certain minerals that are indigenous to Africa, found in some of the things here in America, right? So there is a quote unquote African presence in pre-Columbian America. There is also an Asian presence in pre-Columbian America, right? The Europeans were not the first people to come to America and find America. All right. The Olmecs, the dark skin, right? Quote unquote Negroid features, fezzes, turbans, right? Looking very Islamic. There's evidence of an ancient presence of these people in distinction from modern people today. I'm Moorish American because I'm the descendant of a Moroccan and born in America. A Moroccan American is not necessarily a descendant of the Moroccan. They are the Moroccan. You see what I'm saying? They just like the American Indians can't figure a time when they got here, right? The Moorish Americans can't pinpoint a time, right, in history when they were actually the Moroccan. Drew Ali teaches us about our ancestry, right, and tells us to learn about it so we can teach about it, right? But he lets us know that we are not the Moroccan subjects. We were born. As a matter of fact, the Moorish Americans, when we were dealing with Morocco as a people, we were under the Sultan. We were under the Sultan. Now there's what, I guess, a king, right? That was not the title at the time when our ancestors traversed over here and left their seat here. All right, Moorish American means dark-skinned American in the terms that he's teaching. Drew Ali came to the dark-skinned people who were what? Black, Negroes, and coloreds in their mind. And told them, hey, get back in line with the government, be recognized as white, having North African ancestry, do the same thing that the Europeans are doing. Because there are Europeans here, right, who I mean, they've never been to Europe. They have European ancestry here in America, but they have the white status, right? They're not out here talking about, America is Europe. This is the European Empire, right? They're not out here doing that. Same thing with Asians. There are Asians who've been here long enough. Chinese American, Japanese American, Cambodian American, Pakistani American, whatever the case may be, right? They know that their lineage goes back across the waters, but they also know that, they're Asia's not in America. America is America. And they have Asian lineage, but their birthright not being from the land from whence they came, but being in the land that they are in right here, right now. That's what makes me an American. That's what he was teaching. Come back in line. He says, this is for the uniting of all humanity, right? He was teaching everybody to be equal. I'm saying all of this again to say that Drew Ali never taught that we was out here being American Indians. Anytime we hear of a Moorish Indian, just know that the term Moor or Moorish that's being expressed, um, it is insinuating a dark skin, not an implication to Morocco. All right, Moorish Americans are not American Indians, and according to the race and identity ethnicity form, American Indians they are the original peoples of North, Central, and South America. Now, my peoples are from North, Central, and South America. I do not identify as an American Indian. All right, I could just as well. And I'm gonna tell you the reason why I do not particularly identify as an American Indian is because in the definition, right, there's a caveat, right? It says American Indian or Alaska Native. It says a person having origins in any of the original peoples of North and South, including Central America, right? And then here comes the caveat. And who maintains tribal affiliation or community attachment. I don't have a tribal affiliation, and I don't have a community attachment to any Indian peoples. I'm not in line with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I'm not on any dogs rolls or any of that. All right, so I cannot, in good conscience, go around talking about I'm an American Indian. Drew Ali specifically said that those who were identified as blacks, Negroes, and coloreds, these are the North Africans whose ancestors came to America and formed themselves kingdoms in the Americas. I'm going to read something to y'all, and then I'm going to close out because just really wanted to put that out there like that, right? This is evidence that Noble Drew Ali, right, himself, was not identifying the Moors as American Indians in any manner. I've read this before. I'm going to read it again, okay? These are from the oral statements, right, of Noble Drew Ali. It says, Brother I. Cook Bay, Grand Governor of Illinois, told Brother R. Love L., Grand Sheik of the Moor Science Temple of America, and Brother C. Tyson Bay, past chairman of the Moor Science Temple of America, about the time when the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali and Brother C. Kirkman Bay went to the Pan American Conference in 1928. First and foremost, Drew Ali went to the Pan American Conference. So is he Pan African? He's not. His movement is not about Pan African. He's not even talking about going back to Africa. All right, and there's something else in this information that points to that too, but I'm not going to get into that right now. It says, at that time, during the Pan American Conference, the Holy Prophet went there and represented the Moors. Okay. And there was an Indian chief representing the American Indians. So when Drew Ali went to the Pan American Conference in 1928, he represented, oh, excuse me. He represented the North African white race. And then it says that there was an Indian chief representing the American Indians. Is that not a distinction in the literature where it says that Drew Ali represented the Moors and there was an Indian chief representing the American Indians? Drew Ali did not represent the American Indian at the Pan American Conference. Moorish Americans, according to the truth that he brought back to the people, are not American Indians. And we're not here to hate the American Indians. We're not here to belittle them. We're not here to say, oh yeah, you're not from here, y'all came over from this. That's not even. At the Pan American Conference, if the American Indians had a place there, they were recognized as Americans. If Drew Ali represented the Moors there, the Moors they were represented as Americans. Two distinct nations within the greater nation. We need to get rid of this nonsense out here. Allow people to be themselves, right? So that we can stop the attacks, like the individual who came in here and was talking all that. I'm talking crazy. Most likely, that individual came in, heard a little bit, and immediately tried to line me up with the very people that I'm exposing, if you will. All right, because most people, when they hear about Moors, the first thought is, oh, they think they're this and they think they're that. Nah. I know I'm a North African descendant. I know I'm not a sub-Saharan. There's never been a sub-Saharan for there to be. Sub-Saharan is just like saying black. Sub-Saharan, there you go. Sub-Saharan is a black racial group of Africa. So I'm not sub-Saharan. All right. I know that I have white status, that I'm equal with the Europeans and the Middle Easterners here in America, right? Regardless of my skin tone, right? I have the same constitutional rights as every other white man and every other race or creed here on this continent, right? And I know that, again, I'm not an American Indian. Let me finish reading that statement, though, right? He says, the Holy Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, went to the Pan American Conference, and there he represented the Moors. And there was an Indian chief representing the American Indians. The conference was in Havana, Cuba, and the nations of the earth, and the nations of both North, South, as well as Central America were present. And then it says Secretary of State Hughes of the United States represented the United States. All right. So we have right. I keep bringing them both over here. I'll find the other one in a second. There it is. We have the Moorish Americans, right, represented by Drew Ali. We had the American Indians, represented by a chief. And we had the Secretary of State, what was it, Hayes? Did it say Hayes? Secretary Hughes. The Secretary of State, Hughes, represented the USA as a whole. That's the state. All of these are of America. They're all American. How are they all American? How is it that we know that they're all American? Well, for one, they're at the Pan American Conference. For those of you who do not know what the word Pan represents in this manner, Pan means all encompassing, like a panorama view, right? Unity. It means unification. Everything. It means everything American. Just like Pan-Africanism means everything African. This is everything American, right? This is Constitution, right? Treaties that protect. This treaties, constitutions, and whatnot here in the Americas, the states. Drew Ali was teaching his people that we're all Americans, and that we're supposed to learn to live here together here in America, in friendship. What was it saying? Harmony, friendship, and goodwill, regardless of our race and creed. So we're supposed to be Moorish Americans, for one, are not supposed to be going around imitating other people, and they're not supposed to be going around talking about, hey, you got to get out of here. This is all mine. Because we're supposed. It was told to us by this brother who brought the whole Moorish diaspora into the minds of the people in America. He says that we're supposed to live here in harmony, friendship, and goodwill, like the fellow men, right? I'm a Moorish American. You're an American Indian. You're my fellow American. You're my fellow man. Though we have our own groups within the nation, we all identify as one nation, Americans. Okay? Please stop going around, if you are, and please stop listening to, if you do, these people out here who are causing division and disunity on the American continent. That should not be you. That should not be me. Okay, that's what I meant. All right. I got my passport, right? Because I'm an American. And I've nationalized. I've pledged all of mine. I've received recognition, right? Listen, right? It says that the Secretary of State Hughes represented the United States. Everyone here had to have a passport to get there. The Secretary of State is mentioned on my passport, which means it was mentioned on their passports as well. There was no way for Drew Ali, Kirkman Bey, or anybody else to get from the continental United States to Havana, Cuba, without a passport. Okay? It says, the Secretary of State of the United States of America. The Secretary of State of the United States of America hereby requests all whom it may concern to permit the citizen, national of the United States, named herein, to pass without delay or hindrance, and in case of need, to give all lawful aid and protection. So, the Secretary of State, Hughes, right? It was on the authority of the Secretary of State Hughes that Drew Ali even got there. Drew Ali was recognized as an American. He was holding the American passport. He was holding the national identification of Americans. His nationality was USA. His birthplace was Norfolk, Virginia. Pretty sure that's what it said on his passport. Pretty sure. Birthplace, Norfolk, Virginia, USA. No, they would have said Virginia, USA. Yeah. The Secretary of State was at the same Pan American Conference that Drew Ali was at. If Drew Ali was not an American citizen, if he was teaching that he owed allegiance to some other government, right, he wouldn't have been on that list. He would not have been able to get on that list with as an American. He just would not have. He would not have been able to attend the Pan American Conference, right? And from the stories that I've heard, it says it in the statement. I can't really verify it, but it says in the statement, that Drew Ali had received the mandate, right? If this is true, right, the Secretary of State had to have acknowledged him. That means that he had to have said something before the people. So he was an active participant in the Pan American Conference as an American, and not as an American Indian. All right. And here's another thing that's insightful. It said that the brother C. Kirkman Bey addressed the conference in both Spanish and Arabic. Why is that important? Why is the fact that he was able to speak these two languages, Spanish and Arabic? What is the connector? Why would he speak? Here's another question for you. Why would he speak Spanish in Havana, Cuba? All right, we understand why. Havana, Cuba is a Latin country, suppose, right? A Spanish-speaking country. But he addressed people in Arabic too. What was that about, right? They're Muslims, aren't they? What is the connection between Arabic and Spanish? Moroccan Arabic, the dialect of Arabic spoken in Morocco, and Spanish, they are interconnected as a language. They are interconnected, right? And again, I'm adding the emphasis on the dialect of Arabic that's spoken in Morocco, because every dialect of Arabic is not the same. All right? We hear the stories of the Moors in Europe, in Spain, and Portugal, and all of that. There's a connector in the language, and since there's a connection in the language, that means that there's a connection in the culture. So he's down here at the Pan American Conference, speaking Arabic and Spanish on behalf of the Moorish Americans of North African descent, right? Who have history in Spain, to say the least, right? He wasn't down there speaking. He wasn't speaking any native tongue, any Native American tongue. He spoke Arabic and Spanish. English is compiled of Arabic and Spanish. Right? So this man was able to, it said that he had said something, C. Kirkman Bey got off the ship first, and he says something to the Cuban army, and they all stood at attention as Noble Drew Ali came off the boat, or came off the ship. He was able to speak to these people in English, Arabic, and Spanish. He was able to bring people the barriers brought down. He was able to communicate on behalf of whatever Drew Ali was saying. to him, he was saying to these people in these languages. So there was a message given out to those of Islamic and Spanish in connection heritage. As Americans, man, to me, that's very telling, but that's very profound. And again, he went up there speaking of Indian languages. What am I looking for? My lighter. There it is. The Moorish Americans are of the white race. There is no black race. There is no black Indian. Let me go over this again. There is no black Moor. There is no black African. There is no black Asian. There is no black European. There is no black American, Australian, Canadian, Mexican. Black does not pertain to any original people anywhere on the land. Drew Ali had a statement in the, I believe it's in the last chapter of the Circle 7, right? It's either in the last chapter or in the chapter before, where he makes mention, basically, again, I'm saying that he's pertaining to this information here, right? And this was before that information was printed out like that, right? And he says, chapter 47, verse 9. Right? Now, before I read it, when I read this black African American definition one more time, right? A person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa, right? Not any original peoples. Every other classification, right, has an original peoples, right? It says, according to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family, because all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the Holy Land of Canaan. So he just told us that black means racial group, but the people represents humanity. And he's saying that there are no records of a black or African American being recognized as an original people by any nation ever. And he said that his Moorish Americans are of the white race. He said that the African descendants, they share that white race. That's what he says in the Circle 7. That's what's in the Moorish Americans literature, religious literature. That's my trust law. That's my commercial law. That's why I'm a Muslim. As a Muslim, I have a white status. As a North African Muslim, I have a white status. The only classification without original peoples, the proclamation that there is nowhere in any ancient and divine record will you find a black people. Right? Come on, man. The country, yeah, no, that's not what Noble Drew Ali taught. If that's what you wish to go with, by all means, and you teach that, but that's not even. That's not this movement. Uh, Forgive me if I don't say the name correctly. Tuani Bay. I'm not a Moroccan national because I was born in America, so I can't be a national of the land I wasn't born in. No one can. So that concept already is just a little. It's already not proper. If you are a Moroccan national, that means that you were born in Morocco. That's what makes you subject to Morocco. If you've pledged your allegiance to Morocco, if you have an estate in Morocco, if you have commercial power in Morocco, then you're a Moroccan national, absolutely. But me as a Moorish American, I'm a descendant of a Moroccan, but I'm not from Morocco. I wasn't born over there. My allegiance is here. And again, me speaking on this was Drew Ali going to the Pan American Conference, not anything African. And just to point this out to yourself, the brother talking about the country is Morocco, not the United States. First and foremost, that makes no sense, right? The country is Morocco, not the United States. The United States of America is the country because all the states have ceded some of their authority. They've all pledged their allegiance to one another, and they came together and formed a union that covers the whole North American continent and represents it as one nation. And so that's why it's identified as the country. Let me see here. Okay. Salutations, frater. Long live the empire. All right. All right, but I want to make a point. I've learned not to knock anybody if based on um, their point of views, right? Particularly with this Moorish movement. Um, I utilize the information from Noble Drew Ali only, right? And so I let that information. Like I don't have to defend it because it needs no defense. But I want to make this statement here. Let me see. This is still the connector of North Africa. Okay, you're one of those dudes. I'll let you go ahead and do that. You can't. I already know that you haven't studied Noble Drew Ali. I'm not a Temple Moor, right? So if you ever decide to go that route, I'm not one of them people, right? I know for a fact that you didn't study this man's literature. You talking like that, that's not his literature. That's not his movement, all right? And you're more than welcome to follow that movement if that's what you wish, but I'm just letting you. I'm with this, all right? I'm not with any subversive movement. Or better yet, I'm not to any back to Africa movement. Because your statement, right? Your statements sound like Pan African, like to me. Hail Morocco, Africa, Africa. All right, cool. So there is a newspaper article, right, in Noble Drew Ali's newspaper, in which he's explaining the purpose of his organization, right? And I'm just going to read this one small paragraph, right? He says, and I really wish for you all to catch this, right? Because this will dead all of that right there that the dude's talking about anyway. He says, it is most earnestly hoped that the Moorish Science Temple of America will not in any way be confused with any Back to Africa movement. Such is not important insofar as American citizens of our group colonizing Africa are concerned. You're telling, like, So he's already telling me that everything that you're talking about right now, brother, that's not my concern. That's not my right. The United States was dissolved in 1786. You said go look it up. You're very arrogant in your ignorance. All right, that's cool though. Noble Drew Ali came after that. He was born in 1886, and he studied up enough to know all about that. And even in spite of what you're saying, right, he was still showing allegiance to the government. And he said that the United States, North Africa, excuse me, the United States, North America, and the United States of America, he said all of that interchangeably. This is in the 1900s. You're telling me about the late 19th century. I'm telling you about the early 20th century. And he was aware of all of that. If you've ever studied his information, you'll see that he was already telling us about the 14th Amendment and the 15th Amendment not being necessary for anybody out here to be recognized, right? So if he was talking about the Constitution that was written in 1774. You telling me about what year? You telling me, let me see. You telling me about 1786. So that's 9 years after, right? You don't think that the brother might have been aware of that? If he's talking about constitutional laws set in play in 1774, right? And he's running around in the 1900s. You don't think that he was aware of whatever happened in 1786? He didn't make mention of it. He said that the Moorish Americans lost their nationality in this government in 1774. So he said that we were already over here. He said that we were, he said that because we were acting other than white, right, acting other than as one with the people, that we basically marched ourselves outside of the Constitution because we weren't acting American. And mind you, right, this civilization, if this governance that we walked ourselves out of, Jurali lets us know that we're the mothers and fathers of it. So we walked out of what was already our own. You're telling me that he wasn't aware of that? Or that information that you're presenting to me right now wasn't already considered when he was making all of these statements? Bro? Huh? Sound crazy, man. But like I said, I know that you didn't study his work. So you got something watered down. You got a version, right? And you can push that version all you wish. But I already know better. I went down that road, bro. As a matter of fact, just to speak to it, because I'm not sure if he's still here or not, right? These type of people here, these are the people who identify as Moors, but they're not, as I would like to say, they're not all these Moors, right? So they tend to also argue about the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between Morocco and the United States, right? And they say, yeah, man, you know, that's evidence right there that we're not U.S. citizens because it makes the distinguishment between the Moors and the United States. Yes, that is absolutely correct. That it makes a distinction between Moroccan subjects from Morocco and the United States. The Moorish Americans were already a part of the United States since 1774, even though they were labeled black, right? You can't change the natural descent nature of anybody, right? So they were already a part of the constitutional government. So when that treaty came into place that you're talking about, the Moorish Americans here would have been the United States. They wouldn't have been we wouldn't identify as the Moroccans of Africa. If we're already here in 1774, then that wasn't us. That wasn't the same Moors that were out there in the Caribs, right, up and down the Atlantic Ocean, um, running around in their Corvettes, pirateering. That wasn't us. We were already on land. We were already United States. The Moorish American. That's why we're Moorish Americans. Jurali says that we are descendants. We come from Moroccans, but he tells us where our allegiance is in birthright citizenship. He says we were born in America. If I'm born in America, I'm subject to America. I'm not subject to Morocco. Morocco doesn't have any authority over me. I'm an American. And the American governance is set up under ancient Kemetan, right? But through the Moorish and other people. It's set up under an Islamic, it has an Islamic foundation as is. The U.S. Constitution, all of that. It's all Muslim. That's why the United States was able to talk to the Moroccan government and have that treaty, because it was Muslims. They were Muslims and Muslims talking to other Muslims. Hey, we're Muslims. We're European Muslims over here. We need help. Niggas keep taking our shit out there in the water. They keep slowing our commerce down. Hey, we need him. We need some people to help us. The Moroccan government should take them niggas over there. They ain't doing shit. We were already over here. Just saying. All of that if y'all are reading that stuff down there at the bottom, this is the shit that you got to be aware of. You got to be aware of. Because again, you just got people coming in here talking all of this rhetoric and not even really knowing true history. They can't even qualify the information that they're talking about. Brother talking about treaties and shit between the United States and Moroccans, not born in America, not United States Moroccans, but Moroccans from Africa. Now, Drew Ali told us that this is not to be considered as a back to Africa movement, and he told us that American citizens of our group are not really to even be concerned with anything of our people, of our ancestors colonizing Africa. He's talking about he wants to be an African. Go to Africa then, bro. Go to Africa. There's an empire. The empire has estates here in America. You see what I'm saying? Like, not there's a Moroccan. There is the Moorish Empire. There's an Ottoman Empire too, right? There's all kinds of empires, but that of the Moorish, it extends through North Africa, the Middle East, and Europe, particularly. Right? Here's a concept for you, right? Is is uh is Europe Morocco? Because the Moors ruled Spain and Portugal. Is Europe Morocco? Is Europe northwest of Maxim too? No. But the Moroccan Empire was established there. The Moroccan Empire was established in portions of Europe. Are those portions of Europe Morocco? No. Stop with the bullshit, man. Stop with the fucking bullshit. Shit crazy, man. If y'all enjoy my content, okay, there's 1,000 up there. I appreciate that, y'all. Right? Let me take this opportunity now. I'll talk with you if anyone wishes to come up. Right? And let me make this bigger. Or not bigger, but gotta learn how to do this stuff. think I go here. Okay. And no, that's not it. I've done it once before. Okay, yeah, I do think it's this one. Come on. And do. No, I guess this isn't it. Damn, man, I don't know how to really use this stuff. There's supposed to be a way where I can bring up more pens. All right. Sweating. It's a little warm in this motherfucker. You heard me? Let me see here. Boom. Let me see. I guess nobody desires to come up. That's cool. There we go. There we go. Yeah, that retrograde is definitely coming in. Let's talk about it, right? If you wish to speak about it, come on up. I wish that brother was here still. I'd have brought him up. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Just so we can have this talk and see if we can get some common sense. You know, trying to get the light to. No, but every time I do that, but now I see how people be doing that. All right. Well, you know what? I'm not gonna hold y'all up. I appreciate y'all for coming. As always, I am your brother, man. Just come to show you the way. This is the way that I walk. More than willing to watch the way that you walk if you wish to show me as well. You know? Let me see here. It's crazy because now I don't know how I just did it, but now I don't know how I did it. There we go. You got to touch one. Okay. And we'll just go back to that. All right, y'all. Thank you all for coming. You can catch this recap, just like every other one of them, on the YouTube channel. Until then, take care.